afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute delight and honor for me to be able to give the opening address on this particular session, especially because I feel each one of us has been working so much independently, and the collective knowledge that comes on the table today is going to be extremely enriching for any of us who can hear. We are recording this session, so at any point in time, we'd like to share. More than welcome to take it from us. It's something we've been discussing continuously at the Kolkata Center for Creativity, and that is the direct bridge between the popular and the intellectual. We very strongly believe that the popular and the intellectual, they feed off each other, feed with each other, and help and enhance and grow. So while through the year we do a lot of programs that probably are focused more on the intellectual, at this point of time in the year, we just let our head down, put our feet up, and enjoy all the festivities, bring in together all our energies to enjoy the best of what this region can offer. We have some amazing programs that are lined up, which you have already probably heard of multiple times. As family, Imami has been very forthcoming, and it is at the grassroots level that we've been speaking continuously about doing something which is meaningful, which is helping us grow, definitely financially, economically, and every other possible way, but also a unifier, and to grow in our soul, to grow in our hearts, and to grow intellectually. What better than art for most of us? We have seen that art is that one common unifier, which has been transcending across possibly all borders, physically, economically, and it's very interesting for me to be where I am and see all the amazing work that's happening. We had this discussion, Atulji and me, a couple of months back, that there is so much happening in the city, and it would be wonderful to hear each one's practice, learn from each other, and grow. We know that we want to grow, we do something individually, but if we want to grow exponentially, we work together collectively, and that's the heart behind this evening. So welcome you all, and thank you so much, speakers, for extending your time and your energy at this very last minute and being so available for us. Really means a lot. Thank you.
If I start welcoming and if I start introducing all of our esteemed speakers, it will take a long time, but then I'll quickly introduce and welcome the speakers. Like to give a brief background, and I'm sure everyone knows about it, but still I'd like to give a brief background of our esteemed speaker, Dr. C.S. Advocate Mamta Benani ji. She's India's first registered insolvency professional, president of the Asian African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the president of MSME Development Forum of West Bengal, vice president of National Company Law Tribunal, Kolkata Bar Association, chairperson of the Legal Affairs and Governance Council of the Merchants Chamber of Commerce, and the list goes on, ma'am. Right, we'll stop here. And thanks so much for coming, and thanks for taking out your time. Like to welcome Tweena Chakravarti, ma'am, a Shivering scholar from the University of Essex with a master's in the theory of practice of human rights. Tweena graduated from the Tata Institute of Social Science and started her career in CSR with the Tata Group and Care India. She joined CRY in 2002 as a part of the development support and went on to lead the volunteer action before taking a director role of East India. Welcome. Like to welcome Rupanjana De, ma'am. She's a fellow member of ICSI New Delhi and a lawyer with experience of diverse fields of industry, starting from beverages to renewable energy technology and hands-on experience in company law, corporate governance, legal compliance, corporate sustainability, CSR, quality control, and the list goes on. And she's backed by 2 gold medals, one for being university topper at the graduation level and the other for topping the LLB. Later, she pursued a triple master degree program in Europe, where she earned a master's degree in law from University of Hamburg, Germany, and a master's degree in economics from University of Paul Cézanne in France. Welcome, ma'am. I'd like to introduce Pia Nandi. She's a CSR leader at M Junction Services, a joint venture of Tata Steel and SAIL. She brings 19 years of experience in corporate social responsibility, social auditing, skill development, and sustainability reporting. She's holding a PG in economics. She holds certifications in NGO management, business excellence, auditing, and supply chain. Pia has collaborated with various corporate assessment bodies and World Bank projects. Welcome. Mr. Rajan V.S. Kapoor, he's the NIS officer, has been extensively involved in art literature and mentoring. Mr. Rajan has worked in IRS from 2010 prior to joining IAS in 2012. Till recently, he was the MD of West Bengal Transport Corporation, where under his leadership, the tramways of Kolkata saw a lot of innovation that were accepted globally. And of course, he's one of our artists also, and you can have a look at his creation on the 4th floor after the session is over. So welcome. Like to welcome Mr. Nishant Sinha. He is the CSR head of Excite Industries. Mr. Sinha has more than 15 years of experience with civil society organizations in the CSR space. He is the recipient of the Rashtra Vibhushan Award 2017 and was listed among the 100 most influential CSR leaders of India by World HRD Congress. He is a member of the CSR Committee of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Confederation of Indian Industry. Welcome. Last but not the least, my good friend, Mr. Gaurav Kapoor, Chief Business Officer of IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. He is a serial entrepreneur of over 25 years. Mr. Gaurav Kapoor currently heads the new initiatives and external relations in his current role as the Chief Business Officer at IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, the business incubator of IIM Calcutta. He's worked across multiple domains, both business and social. He has a deep focus on social entrepreneurship and brings to the table a wide knowledge base from experiential learning to deep-rooted skills in business planning and development. Thank you so much. So it's a great panel. I'm not the moderator. I don't consider myself the moderator. I'm the host out here. I'll try and facilitate the discussions in such a manner that we'll extract the maximum out of it. So we'll like to start the discussions. We will try and finish by 5 o'clock. It's going to be a 1-hour discussion. Like the audience to ask questions whenever possible and wherever possible. I'm slightly full of papers, so I'll first start with Dr. Mamta Benani, ma'am. In terms of what do you think, here we are in the center of Kolkata Center of Creativity. And we're talking about the role of CSR funding as far as the promotion of art and culture is concerned. What do you think is your views on the current landscape of the corporates and the funding from corporates happening, not happening in this field? And the brief context where I'm asking this question is because the total number of corporates in India who are doing CSR is around 15,000 corporates. The total CSR budget in the country from all the corporates combined is around 25,000 crore. Out of 25,000 crore, just 0.5% of the CSR funding is actually going into promotion of art and culture, which is totaling approximately only 150 crores out of the total 25,000 crore is going into promotion of art and culture. So what do you think is the reason for this trend, and what can be done as players in the system to be able to make some difference, okay, in terms of these numbers, ma'am?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Richa ji, for really organizing this. Coming straight to this, I guess, if I can just say that before Chandrayaan, how many of us really thought and seen that there will be humongous increase in monetary terms in allocation for science and technology, or for research in science and technology, or so for that matter, even in research in those ancillary units which will be supplying defense equipments? Because before Make in India and before the opening of the defense sector, who of us had actually thought that there will so much that will be gone in monetary terms and occupying the mind space, and the sectors will really open up? I think government has taken the right stride. For example, whenever something new comes up, it just takes a while to get percolated in the lowest levels or maybe in the mediocre levels. And what with CSR, I think you must be aware, or if not, let me tell you, India is the only country where CSR has been mandated to be spent mandatorily in law. There's no other nation in the whole world where CSR spending is mandatory. Though if a company like Imami, where R.S. Agarwal ji and Goenka ji, they are all there, and they always say that, Mamta, even if there is 2%, we go on and spend much more, because that is in our DNA. But look at some companies who actually were just not spending in the desired levels, but after this mandation of CSR, they are mandatorily doing it. And gone are the days when, I wish to just tell you, gone are the days when the lawmakers said that comply or explain. There was previously a mandate where the Companies Act said that, okay, if you're not able to comply, just explain as to why you're not able to comply. Those days are now shut and gone, and now the lawmakers have said that you have to comply. And if you're not complying, the show cause notices itself, etc., are being shooted by the government of India. So that means that there is no carrot and stick policy anymore. It's just a stick policy that you've got to do it. So, but it started with carrot and stick and then percolated to a stick policy. Point that I'm trying to drive home is that we are still in those early years when 2013 Companies Act just came and Section 135 just came out of the blue. People were not expecting. From voluntary guidelines of CSR, it came into a mandatory aspect of CSR. And look, we are just about 10 years, and 10 years is not a very big time for such a section to get matured and get percolated at all levels. So Atulji, we've started very right. We started with a grand, I'm telling you, gesture where the government is mandating that you've got to do it. And they went on to say, hey, you just cannot spend on your own people and say that you've done CSR, because that is a part of an employee welfare measure. So that's my starting remarks.
Thanks for your input. In fact, there was a time when CSR was considered to be done on your employees also, but then right now, that will be under the staff welfare budget of HR. And once again, as far as mandate is concerned, it's no longer explained. So we need to spend the money. And of course, we'd like to hear from you in the future in terms of the way to spend, in terms of how the responsibility is on the NGOs to be able to spend the right way in terms of providing utilization, statement of expenses, etc. We'll discuss on that. Like to ask our corporate representative, Mr. Nishant Sinha. Now, I would like to, I was just kind of trying to think over what is the whole session all about. And I would like to sum up by saying we have representation. Yeah, thank you so much. That was really required. That was, I don't know whose idea was this, but that was great. So what I'm saying is, I was thinking about, we have an ABCD kind of profile of people. So when I talk about A, we have what? We have representation from the art fraternity, and Mr. Rajan Kapoor is actually also a representative of the art fraternity, I would say, because his art is being displayed. And so we have representative from academia. Mr. Gaurav Kapoor is here. We have got B. B is business community. We've got a representation from Exide. C, civil society. Trina is here. D, which is the due diligence. Okay, so we've got ladies who do due diligence. I think we've covered end-to-end in terms of the profile of the people out here. But coming to the corporates, Mr. Sinha, we talk about corporate funding, we talk about CSR funding. What do you think is the reason why just 0.5% is being spent on art? Because there are more important areas, I understand, which is to do with health, education, skill development, and poverty that corporates focus on, which is like a low-hanging fruit. So what can be done to actually try and change the trend of corporates to be able to take this sector also seriously, because this sector can also add to the economic growth and to the social growth of the country. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Singh. Just a piece of information before I take your query. I actually started my career working with artisans and weavers. I worked with them extensively for 5 years. Now coming to your query, as a CSR leader, what we find is CSR leaders are answerable to the board of directors. And board of directors are answerable to the stakeholders, the shareholders. Now, when we discuss the entire CSR, the gamut of activity in CSR, we'll find that education, poverty alleviation, health, skill development, environment, empowerment, these are low, you said they are low-hanging fruits, right? But these are some of the social causes which find resonance with the stakeholders. And many of us use social media. You open a Facebook, 2-3 posts down, you will find feed a child for 450 rupees in a year. Further down, you'll find something on a, this patient is ill, donate 500 rupee, 2000 rupee. So, perception matters. Right now, our societal perception is more inclined towards, say, education, towards skill development, empowerment. But, if you see the trend, 10 years back, what was the trend? I think there were corporates who wanted to do everything. Then they tried and strategized things. Now, there is an increasing trend of investment, even in empowerment. Empowerment was not being prioritized earlier, but now the funding for empowerment is going up. So one obviously is how we create that perception that artisan is an important community, how we can go about that. And yeah, it's a low-hanging fruit because you do an infrastructure project, it gives you a visibility from the board's perspective also. You do a skill development project. So visibility is another important aspect. Third important aspect is in terms of the data and impact assessment. You do education project, you'll have a readily available data. Maybe 1 year down the line, you can also measure some impact. But you do a project on skilling, it requires lots of passion. Yeah, it requires lots of energy, lots of commitment. So, I'd like to tell you one story. It's actually it happened in UP. So there was this gentleman, he was a corporate leader, traveling in his office, opened a newspaper and saw an article in which it was written that someone, a person was actually hospitalized. He fainted, and for last 2 years, he was selling his blood. So he got so perturbed that instead of going to the office, he went to the village. This was an artisan village. And this gentleman happened to be from the hospitality industry. They were weaving Banarsi sari. We all know Banarsi silk sari. So he went there, then had an interaction, started with some patchwork philanthropy, bringing nutritious meal available and all those stuff. But soon realized that this will not work. So then they started doing the understanding what actually is plaguing the society, this community, and that was when they came up with need assessment and all those stuff, and realized that lots of inputs, course correction is required in this sector. So that was the day that he decided that every clothing, every apparel in his apparel industry would be sourced from that community. So that was how it started. But that kind of passion, that kind of zeal is important. That is one. And when we want to when we want to work with artisans, weavers, or art, for art and culture, time is important. You cannot expect outcome in 1 year. It has to be a multi-year project wherein 3 years, 4 years down the line, you'll really see a true impact. That is one. And second, obviously, there is always a risk of failure. Because I worked with artisans, I'll tell you there's a concept of design improvement, design development workshops. These are all consumer driven. Consumer may or may not like a design, no matter how much good intent we have. So we have to have that appetite to take risk also. So that is my take on this.
Thanks so much. We'll come back to you. Great perspectives in terms of your thoughts. And I'd like to once again come to Rupanjana ma'am in terms of the act, the legislation, and just for the information of everyone, we have a Section 135 of the Companies Act, and under Section 135, we have a Schedule 7 that talks about what can be done under CSR and what cannot be done. So before we proceed further in terms of the discussion, I think we would like to hear from you that what is the provision of law in terms of like the legislation that talks about what can be done as far as art and culture is concerned, and what kind of projects, what kind of programs in terms of sustainability, in terms of short-term, long-term, medium-term, can be done, and what's exactly there in the law as far as art and culture is concerned with, with regards to Schedule 7, and what, is allowed under CSR and what is not allowed under CSR, so that it is clear for everyone in the audience and with everyone in terms of what can be done for the future.
Thank you very much. Since I've been hearing to everyone, so I would like to give a little introduction, and then come to the question that you have. So one very misunderstanding that we have, it needs to be cleared. India is not the first country to mandate CSR, nor is India the only country in the world to mandate CSR. So actually, if we go by mandate, statutory mandate, Indonesia was the first country in 2007. They mandated CSR, but it's a gross flop legislation in the country. It's not been well implemented in the country, and they have not mentioned any percentage. But it has not been. It's a case of poor implementation in the country. In 2009, in the Finance Act of Mauritius, CSR was mandated. Mauritius became the first country in the world to mandate CSR. They also mentioned 2%. And unlike our act, which is the Companies Act under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, they are under the Ministry of Finance, the Finance Act. They are directly linked with the income and, before profit income. So the implementation in Mauritius has also been much easier because here 2 ministries are involved in India and they have the same ministry. So much of what the law that we implement in India is actually taken from Mauritius. Unfortunately, we don't give them any credit, but I do follow because I've written a few books on CSR, so I had to, dig deep into it. So, and, I'm also contemplating a thesis on CSR someday. So what I found is that they are way ahead of us in CSR. So something that probably would come to our law also, because which has been already implemented in their country, is that they have defined beneficiaries, which we have not. In our country, if you see the CSR, the law with respect to CSR in the Companies Act, we have not defined the beneficiaries yet. We are talking about doing, social work for just about anybody. We're not bothered whether that person is actually, eligible to be a beneficiary. But they have defined List A and List B. So List A is, it's in order of priority. So as a beneficiary, you give the priority to List A people who are the under the poverty line, and then List B is just the people just near the poverty line. So that is probably something that we will soon take from them also. So that is one thing. And we as a country, from the legislators' point of view, we tend to become too complacent that we are the first country. But, that in some, to some extent that, hampers our progress. We have really a lot to do. Many countries in the world actually have CSR obligation in their constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. For example, the country where I did my master's in Germany, they have as fundamental duty, CSR is a fundamental duty in their country, to enjoy the right to property, which is a fundamental right. You have to first fulfill your fundamental duty of sharing 30%, I think, 30% of your profit with the people for whom, you are using the stakeholders. So a classic case, someday maybe when we have more time, a classic case would be Nokia, which was taking out its factory from Germany to Taiwan. The whole of Germany have stopped using the Nokia mobile as a result of this, because they have not shared their profit with the stakeholders. So that is a very big thing. A thesis can be done on that. It's a very big issue. So now, so that was a little background I wanted to give, because it's very important to understand the legislation before, the development of a legislation before starting to talk about the provisions. Now, as far as the provisions are concerned, Clause 5 of Schedule 7, first of all, we also must understand Schedule 7 is a very poor drafting of the SDGs. You know, the UN SDGs, 17 SDGs. It's a hodgepodge of all the SDGs, put together. But that is okay as long as everything is there. So clause 5 talks about the art and culture. And if you go by the exact wording that is used there, like to answer your question, there are two terms used in that clause. You know, we have used the word national heritage, and then we have used art and culture. Now, if you go back to SDG from where this Schedule 7 might have been inspired, definitely it has been. In SDG 11, precisely 11.4, the word that has been used is cultural and natural heritage. So here, when we come to India, the cultural heritage becomes, national heritage is there, but art and culture has been used independently without the word heritage. Now, how you infer that, how you, infer the terminology is important, because these words have not been defined by the Companies Act, because the moment you use the word heritage, the entire scenario changes. Then you cannot talk about creativity. Right? So heritage is something which is, coming on for generations. So you cannot introduce fine art there. I mean, we are cut at that very moment. But then that has not been defined in the Act. And and also it has been mentioned, if you see the Companies Amendment Act of 2017, it has been mentioned that, the Schedule 7 has to be, a broader view of the Schedule 7 has to be taken, so that we can try to, put in everything, even if it is not expressly worded there, but if the essence, if the intent of the particular activity is coming within that activity, within that particular word, then of course we can do it under CSR. Now, of course, art and culture both have been mentioned in our Schedule 7. And there has been no FAQ, to my understanding, because Ministry of Corporate Affairs, from time to time, because CSR, it may be just one section, and in the BEAR Act, in the Companies Act, it takes hardly 2 pages of a 1,000-page book. But my book, for example, is 416 pages. So CSR is actually huge. You cannot word it in just 2 pages. So because the interpretation is huge, and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs keeps on coming with FAQs, frequently asked questions, because the stakeholders like us, we keep on asking similar questions like this, how to interpret art and culture. So what the ministry does is, from time to time, it issues some circulars with answering the very common questions. And I have so far not seen any question which has questioned the art and culture, because we try to take a broader view of it. So there is nothing, taking that view of MCA, nothing is actually disallowed as such, because we are taking the word in a broader sense. Otherwise, I would say, if I follow the literal wording of that particular clause, I would say it's only the cultural, the heritage art that we are doing, let's say Madhubani painting, or maybe, Patachitra, something which is a heritage in the heritage form. So if you go to the literal meaning, this is something which is, Pichola work and all that. So these will be actually coming within that meaning. But of course, there has never been any question, and even if there has been, MCA has not interfered. So I think even MCA wants to take a broader view of that. And of course, art and culture, the companies that are coming into this fair, there are very few. And I congratulate Emami for taking this initiative, because unless you have the drive, the passion from inside, unless you are an artist inside, you really can't think about taking it up. Because, in reality, because I was just sharing, I'm also passionate. I call myself a seasonal artist, because once in 6 months or 1 year, I suddenly sit with my work. And by the way, I have a connection with your, it's good to know that you were the managing director of Calcutta Tramways. So I've done a painting of Calcutta, the Wheels of Joy tram, the light green colored tram that plies. So that was my concept, my CSR. That was not individual CSR initiative, all from my pocket. But then what we did was to, because there was talks about, discontinuing this tram, and we thought tram was a the heritage of Calcutta. So what we did was we painted the entire tram with 65 like illustrations depicting the city of Calcutta. And we were so happy that when Calcutta Central Mall inaugurated their first mall in Calcutta in Rajarhat, they started their advertisement with that tram, which I like to call it my tram, because that's, I don't own it, but I designed it. So they started it, and they used those, art pieces to follow. They followed the trail that we put in those pictures, which we really liked. So there's a lot that can be done in this fair. And also here I would like to add a little bit because for the stock exchange thing that has come, because since Imami, I was just asking from him what kind of a incorporation is Imami Foundation, and he told me it's a public charitable trust. And as we have seen that, social stock exchanges come up. So if I've been involved in the drafting of the social audit standards for both the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and Institute of Company Secretaries of India. I was the chairperson there. So I have seen impact assessment we talk about in CSR in companies, in Companies Act, there is the term impact assessment. And there's recently, we were calling social audit, and recently SEBI has decided to change the name of social audit to social impact assessment. So we see a convergence of those two things here. MCA is one regulator, SEBI is another regulator, and if you compare the social sphere, the realm that we are dominating through MCA, and if you compare it with the space, so MCA's CSR space is like Earth, and SEBI is like having a Jupiter. So because they are registering the NGOs, and in India we have for every 650 people one NGO. So it's a huge space. And if these two regulators have a convergence of their idea and call it from social audit to call it social impact assessment, there's a long way to go. And I would request you, ma'am, to consider listing someday, because trusts can also list in the social stock exchange. The opportunity increases, as I said, from Earth to Jupiter. You can imagine it's a huge, some 1,300 times the sphere increases. So that will be a really good thing to do. Thank you so much. I hope I have answered your question.
You've answered more than the questions. Thank you so much for that. And it's great to hear that as far as the law is concerned, there can be a liberal interpretation of the Schedule 7 in terms of what can be done, what cannot be done. Right now, it's pretty broad in nature. And your thoughts on social stock exchange, and that's the future, ma'am. I believe you had a session on social stock exchange, and I missed that. And I would like to once again catch up on that. And we need guidance of people like you and Mamta ma'am in terms of the structure, in terms of how should we structure the programs, be it art, be it health. So structuring is very important from a compliance perspective. Talking about the Calcutta trams, very interesting, okay, and working and, the MD of the West Bengal Transport Corporation, and, your leadership, took the tramways, okay, to a different height. So I'd like to hear from you in terms of what are the various kind of interventions that you did, and what role CSR had to play in terms of having those kind of interventions, and how successful was that, and what challenges, and overall what's your experience working in this sector?
Okay, so very warm good evening. Sandwiched between very intelligent people, I'm feeling a little intimidated, but before I start the answer, Atulji, if you give me 1 minute, I want to ask a question to all of you here. Have you heard about opera? Piano, Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci? What is common to all four of these things? Anybody knows? Art, yes. Creativity. Anybody in the audience? Expression, lovely. What's common to a piano, Michelangelo, opera, and Leonardo da Vinci is that all was sponsored by one family in Italy. The entire discussion fails when we start seeing capitalists as enemies. When we start thinking that people with money are the monstrous creatures who have a malafide intention behind everything they do. They cannot do anything without a selfless love for humanity, and there needs to be a discussion of coercion. So when both the esteemed speakers were talking about mandatory or not mandatory, my whole idea is that even if it is not or mandatory, what about the public perception? Unfortunately, we as a society have a very dialectical approach to this. We want to go to a literary festival, we want to go to an art exhibition, but we never really, from the heart of heart, appreciate the efforts if a so-called capitalist family has organized it. Because we want to believe that they are not cultured enough. They're not supposed to be cultured. Neither are you supposed to judge anybody. Because the one family that sponsored Michelangelo, the one family that sponsored Leonardo da Vinci, the one family that invented the piano, the one family that funded, the opera and other things, St. Peter's, which later on they became a royal family, was a wool trading family. A wool means own. And that could have been a family from Bada Bazaar in Calcutta. And we could have looked very dismissively at them, okay, they're traders. But that was a wool creating family, a trading family from Italy that later became really rich. Did all this without any legislation. No schedules were there, madam, no laws were there. And we fantasize about these artworks even today. But do you ever know about Medicis? No. You heard about them, but we didn't know. Because that's the nature of mankind. So even if you abhor capitalism, even if you do not want to give credit to somebody funding art, I think this is the biggest challenge why maybe, it's a personal opinion that I have, I'm not speaking from my official capacity or from a knowledge point of view. I think this is one of the big impediments which might be stopping a lot of families from investing in art, even in CSR. Because when I open a school, nobody judges me. But if I open an art gallery, I also have to look very cultured, wear a certain kind of dress, wear a certain kind of jewelry, talk in a certain way. So till the time all of us can accept that a wool trading family can create things that the world is proud of, we really cannot make any difference. Even if we attend hundreds of art exhibitions, we speak in thousands of these seminars, because when we go outside, we will have that conversation over tea and adda and discuss this. So that's my humble point. Now coming back to the question, what I felt, I think the same challenge is what I felt when I was doing something for this intervention in the tramways, because there was a sense of, by certain people who were not the the decision makers, but people down in the hierarchy who thought that, involving a corporate is not a very healthy thing to do. We can do it ourselves. And I had to tell them, listen, you cannot do everything yourself. You need to take people on board. And you need to trust the private sector. And that is the basis for a private-public partnership. I'm not just an artist, I'm also a civil servant. So let me tell you, when we opened the mindset of the team, when we told them that this is no crime, it's perfectly normal, we produced some phenomenal results. We got books from a leading bookstore, we made a tram art library, we got painters who could come and paint a tram and convert it into an art gallery. So with very little funds earmarked for renovating trams into artistic interventions, we could achieve it because we had faith on the corporate of the city. They rose to the occasion. And we were not blurred by the image that they have any sort of malafide intention. So that's it. I think that is the challenge. And let me also, just from the way I think why India is probably not high on investing in art is, if anybody's done management here, it's the Maslow's hierarchy, I guess. The most important thing right now is food. If I don't have food to eat, I will not hang a painting in my house. So I really don't mind if CSR is spending on education and health and sanitation, because maybe that is more important for a lot of people in this country. And the moment I think we reach a stage where all this is easily accessible, I'm sure higher investment will come into art and culture. But I guess we're doing a great job. And that's it. My experience has been fabulous. We've created a lot of places of interest with tramways. And it has solely been possible with the public-private partnership, with an open heart and mind, and not having a doubtful mindset. Thank you.
Great, absolutely great insights, and your thoughts about the roti kapda makan, that has to be taken care of first before we have a painting in the house is very relevant and very pertinent. And even if the spending on art is, let's say, 150 crore out of 225,000 crore, well, there are important things and there are more pressing needs of the country possibly, and we have to understand that. Also, talking about art and the future of art, and is art important, and what's the future sustainability plan for art in terms of making sure it survives. We have this threat of technology right now, and there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning and expert systems and great technologies coming in. And there's, I believe, strike happening in Bollywood, and the script writers and the artists and all that, they're going on strike in terms of art being taken over by artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is also creative. It creates stories, it makes scripts, it creates work of art and painting. So with this threat of artificial intelligence, and my question is to you, Mr. Gaurav Kapoor, is we've briefly worked together on various social sector startups, and they were kind of leveraging technology and art, and the future of art, and in terms of survival of art. Here we speak about investments in art, and here I'm talking about survival of art, okay? What are your thoughts, with this technology coming in and so-called taking over the chat GPTs and, such technologies is now also kind of helping us and kind of, helping with the various operational works and office tasks. What do you think is the future of creativity with art context in mind?
My God, this is really heavy. Okay, before I get into that, I think I'll start from something which is a little dear to my heart, and I'll go back in time. So I guess everybody here knows how art and craft actually came about, right? So it was a means of expression, yes, but more than that, it was a supplementary source of livelihood for people, because we are an agrarian society, and agriculture being seasonal, there was enough time at hand for people to involve themselves, engage themselves in something which was a little more meaningful. So that's where expression came in, and that's where another source of livelihood also came in. And that's how, I'm not talking about just art, I'm talking including crafts as well. So I'm taking that as one big subset. And so that's how craft actually came into being, and that's how slowly over time, at least in India, it became popular. And you'll be surprised to know there are more than 20 crore artisans in this country. I'm mentioning these figures because just for an appreciation, such a big event is happening here. We've got some illustrious people sitting here, this side. And I find myself to be, really humble here, because I come from a space where I work with artisans and I understand where they come from. Keeping that in mind, there are more than 20 crore artisans in this country. Unfortunately, only 70 lakh are registered. These numbers will give you some understanding of what's happening in the country and where we need to put in our efforts, where we need to bring in, or rather bring these into a viewpoint. So with only 70 lakh being registered, if you just look at the handloom industry alone, there are roughly 24 lakh looms in this country, now growing a little faster, but 24 lakh as of now, and almost engaging about 60 lakh to 65 lakh weavers, out of which 55% are women. And I'm bringing this viewpoint of women, a lot of women are sitting here, and the reason why I'm bringing this into your perception here right now, because I think women play a very, very important role in the art and craft sector. And no doubt they have been also a part of the agricultural sector. However, also running dual or rather multiple roles as being homemakers, they also found time for craft. Rajan, your exhibition is amazing. I just went through it just now. Unfortunately, we got only 10 minutes. I would love to have spent a lot more time there. Fulkari being one of them, which was, more for expression, not for livelihoods. But if you look at the other parts of the country, a lot of it is being done majorly for livelihoods. Now, having said that, this also tells us that how little is happening in this space. There's a huge need for CSRs to actually focus on this space, because if you take care of livelihoods, then you also in turn take care of other needs of, when you spoke about Maslow's hierarchy, other needs are taken care of, right? So this is one thing I think which really needs to be highlighted. And I think very little is being done to make people aware about this aspect. India is, of course, our culture is such, so rich that we've been majorly philanthropic. However, on the other side, if you look at the corporate world, we have a huge corporate there sitting who didn't need a CSR policy to, start working on CSR, if we call it so-called CSR. The Tatas have been, 66% of their profits go into developmental work. So we've been doing this for, decades over. We didn't have to wait for a CSR policy to come in. Most, I think, industrial families in this country contribute a huge amount of their profits towards philanthropy. And they've done some amazing amount of work. Of course, that was looked more as philanthropy. Again, schools were built, hospitals were built, lots of things have been done. But having said that, I would still say, and I'll come back to your question now, I'm sorry, taking a lot of time. I know there's a paucity of time. But coming back to your question, but before I do that, I would still say original is original. A copy is still a copy, okay? One may want to disagree and say that, technology coming in doesn't mean that there is no art there. Of course, you need to make technology work also to produce art. But the labor that goes into something which is craft, art, what we see here, which is physical, is way, way too, I would say, intense than just a digital piece. Looking at the future, yes, there has been a lot of talk in this country and outside, all across the world, about how technology is going to, AI is going to take over, and there will be, art will be destroyed and so many other things. And well, I guess like every other technology, there are pros and cons to everything. There's always that risk there. But I guess over time, people, there will be an equilibrium that will come about, like it happens in every other space. So will it be in this space as well, I guess. That's my understanding. Of course, I just hope that we can hold on to what we have. That is what I would say. Let whatever is happening happen. Let us not lose what we've got. It is too precious. Just for an understanding, there are more than 35,000 product offerings that come from art. We are such a rich country. Every 200 kilometers, it's a new country, new people, new language, new food, new color, new clothes. We can't lose what we've got. So my only submission would be that this is something that needs to be preserved and promoted only because it has too many lives at stake. 20 crore people, and these are again, estimated figures. We don't know. It could be even more than that. But if you go towards the rural belt, you will find that in every household there's something or the other that is happening. by the way, we are just 6% of the population on one side, which is in the organized trade. The unorganized trade is 94%. And this is the second largest livelihood opportunity for people after agriculture. So I don't think we can lose it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Your perspective about labor-intensive work, and as far as the artist is concerned, they've been working very hard, trying to focus on the work. And I'll ask Trina the question which is stemming out of your answer is the concept about art contributing to the well-being of the community. And the value of well-being and how art can actually create a society of happy people and how, like you said, livelihood can be linked with art, okay? And that's the best way to kind of make sure art is protected, safeguarded, and we have people who are benefiting directly from this sector. So, ma'am, what are your thoughts on the well-being part of it in terms of the well-being, and what do you think are the indicators? Because what happens is that often corporates sometimes look at hardcore indicators. They are very fond of metrics, they are fond of profit, they're fond of bottom line, they're fond of shareholder value. So right now we're talking about a single shareholder value to a multiple stakeholder value. So from that perspective, value of well-being and the indicators for well-being, slightly different question, but then I'm sure with your experience in CRY and working with children, you are exposed to the sector.
So I'd like to start with a few stories. Recently, during my visit to the tea gardens in Jalpaiguri district where we work, and our work is largely to do with survivors of children of communities who have been exposed to unsafe migration, right? Children on the move, communities on the move, and not in a very safe manner. And this interaction with the survivors was very touching. And what we noticed was that there was a lot of shame, as if you're guilty because you were, trafficked, or you migrated, taking risks, right? So there's a lot of shame. In fact, some children in Bihar told us that, we are referred to as pakadwa bachcha, yeah? But then, why did they migrate? Most of the families we worked with saw their families in abject poverty. And then they wanted to go to, a certain state, work in the bangle making factories, etc. Now, so it's about self-esteem, right? I mean, there's an absolute depletion of a sense of self-worth and self-esteem when they're back. We struggled with what should our intervention be? Put them back in school? Definitely. That was done. But then we still saw there was something that shame wasn't, they were not being able to deal with it. Nor did we, nor could we comprehend as to how do we do, what do we do? And incidentally, I think we have very strong participation by the children in the programs that we do. And music, art, painting, dance emerged as a way out. Not just as a way out, but as a beautiful medium which helped them transcend shame. Yeah, it was not our sessions. It was not our sessions teaching, sort of art, but then when they engage in a process which is facilitated, well facilitated. And so therefore art really is something that's indispensable. And then if I were to look at the question that might come from any donor, how do you measure? How do you measure this change? So it's easy to measure that the child is enrolled in school, the child was a survivor, came back, is in school. We can show certificates from the school, mainstreaming certificates, etc. But then how do you measure this change in confidence, this change in, this positive change in a sense of self-worth? How do you measure that, right? And there are tools. you know, very simple things, if we are willing to engage, we can figure out. And some of these tools are tried and tested and proven, right? So there's a science to it. For instance, one of the things that we try and do is look at, is the child freely asking questions? It's difficult to measure. It's challenging to measure, but it's possible. You know, and there are different formats of studies. You know, it could be a qualitative one, it could be a quantitative one. But then as long as we are willing to engage with these different ways of measuring, I think it's very, very possible. The other one that, you know, the other, I mean, look at also the whole area of how much of child trafficking, child marriage, unsafe migration, school dropout, we could have stopped had, you know, the parents for whom art is livelihood, right? If that could have been ensured with dignity. Because again, dignity is one very key thing, because it's not about, you know, it's not, for lack of a better word, it's not begging. It's you're an artist, and you deserve to be treated with dignity. And therefore, I think in addition to a supportive, you know, there are a lot of social protection schemes these days, right? And I think that plays a huge role. And that's a very positive direction, but a lot can be done, even beyond that. So there are ways to measure, and it's really, really indispensable. I mean, I'm envisaging a time when artists who are in areas which are very hard to reach will be able to, you know, I mean, their children will be proud to pursue that art form, because we have so many children and families who right now don't want to, you know, carry on. I mean, they want to migrate to the cities, and very naturally, right? I mean, it's very normal in that sense. We would all want to. And I think there's a lot that can be done, and it's possible, provided our whole framework of measuring change is in perspective. And as donors and, you know, the people who are implementing on the ground, partners, we are willing to engage with communities to look at what are the measures of change, you know. And definitely, there will be indicators, there will be parameters, and I think the visual that comes to my mind was a story which I had heard from my father long back. And there was an artist, a rural folk artist, and he had, you know, he was working with the bark of a tree, and then so my father wanted to pay him to buy that bark of tree, and then he said that, you know, how many hours did you put in, you know, what is the cost? Then he asked my father as to how much do you get paid for an hour? Yeah, and I think it still gives me goosebumps, because fundamentally it is about dignity. So it is about the way we empathize, the way we look at, you know, and I think the whole realm of art is, you know, even in school, for instance, art is often co-curricular. You know, that it becomes like another subject, right? So, and I think looking at art as very, very fundamental to our existence, and just look at what can happen to a child without a sense of self-worth. You know, the kind of vulnerabilities that the child is going to face. Therefore, and art is really an answer to that, you know. So with that, I don't know if I've answered your question.
I think that's a very fresh perspective, very refreshing perspective in terms of the whole topic, and talking about schools and art. And I remember when I was in school, art was a subject, and guess what? I used to get 4 out of 10 all the time. just barely passed mark, and that was my creativity at its best. And so, once again, art as a subject is something new to me, and I'm still learning. And I'm very, very happy to be sitting here and kind of still learning on the subject.
Just to take the liberty to add, that art was painting within the lines.
Yeah, pretty much boundary oriented. We've been talking about what CSR can do for art, okay? What support art needs, art kind of needs support of the corporates, the capitalists and everyone. But art can actually be a tool, okay, for all of us to be able to do something. And, Pia, the next question is to you. In terms of art as a tool, okay? Art as a platform, art as a medium, okay? Can be used by corporates in terms of implementation of the CSR activities. When I was working for World Diabetes Foundation, Denmark, we used to use an art form called Ankiya Nat. When I was in Assam, Ankiya Nat is an art form where, that was like a street play where we used to take the help of local artists and have a script, train them, and they used to go and perform the art. And in the process of performing that art form, they were spreading awareness about diabetes, right? So, why only, the CSR supporting art? How about art kind of also acting as a medium of change and a tool for corporates? And art can be used for social engineering also. And also art can be used for various livelihood projects. So what are your thoughts on social engineering tools? And art is the best way of kind of getting into advocacy or such kind of subjects. So your thoughts and your experience working in this area?
Very good question. I think art and social justice has always worked in tandem, always. So without art or different expressions of art, no movement, no social movement could have been done for anything. Any social reforms, any political changes, or anything that needed art at its best. So starting from theater or poetry or painting or anything, or maybe a slogan writing, which we have actually forgotten now. So we have seen in our childhood a lot of interesting slogans, lot of interesting lines, and very powerful lines which have actually helped us to see a lot of social reforms. I will take an example from my introduction or my, I would say, how I started my journey in this social development sector. I was an avid theatre personnel because I used to do theatre. So in my university days, so my first work in social sector was we need to work with people in Darjeeling. Some of the homestays, they were at the beginning of starting a homestay, and there are a lot of landslides and other social issues. So our role from KMDA was to form a lot of street dramas or a lot of theatric thing with the local kids and the school students to represent how they can deal with landslides, how we can promote homestays in those areas. So that was my first experience with anything in the social sector. And trust me, that was the point when I decided, no, I don't want to pursue any career of analytics or anything even after doing a PG in economics. So I was looking for any kind of an option or road to work for social development, and that took me to XISS. So I have seen in my life that how, spatially, I would talk about theater as more because theater built character. I thoroughly feel so because theater can make you a more kind of a lot of team building aspects, lot of leadership skills, and lot of communication skills which we need right now. So theater we have used in different kind of forum, in different kind of social development issues. Like when we, even in Tata's, I proudly represented Tata companies and Tata Group where a form of theater and form of art has been used in various way for many of our CSR activities. Though we don't call it a CSR activities, it's a part of our entire existence. It's a part of Tata's existence. So theater is being used as a part of employee volunteering as well. We do a lot of short drama, role play, street plays, even at the beaches of Mumbai, to create awareness for environment issues. We use step drama to create awareness regarding gender and equity. We use dialogues, we use many other forms to create awareness regarding POSH. Those are very, very issues of concerns, not only related to CSR, but also related to other aspects of society. So theater is one of those forms. Apart from theater, definitely painting, other liberal art forms had been used for many other things. So where we can bring together community members to make a reform. So that's what I personally feel.
Thanks so much, from the how can art kind of contribute towards our social well-being, and theaters and such platforms can actually be used. Thanks so much for your insight. Mamta ma'am, I'll take the advantage of your presence here and ask you a question.
Thank you.
Kind of not a strange question, but it's a question that I've been longing to ask. Okay, someone is from a long-term sustainability viewpoint of art, okay, and the commercialization of art. Is it wrong to commercialize art? Is it wrong to extract economic value, okay, from art in terms of getting art and making art more sustainable? How can art organization, how can the entire fraternity, okay, look into, like I said, long-term sustainability of art and commercialization of various activities, okay, as the strategy, way forward to counter the technology threat and all that? What are your views on that?
So I have strong views that if something is not commercialized, it doesn't survive. Let's accept that. And secondly, for long-term sustainability, I think now it's going to get sustainable, because gone are the days when our children, when they used to take arts, if not us, but our neighbors used to say, "वो बच्चा तो ढीला है, उसका दिमाग ज़्यादा चलता नहीं है, so वो तो arts में ही जाएगा." So we used to condemn the child in one way or other ways, that, oh, that child is, that child is gone. Yeah.
Not allowed, but I'll just take these 1 second. I was always into painting, but my father said that you have to be an engineer, because arts में वो cousin जाएंगे जिनके marks अच्छे नहीं आते हैं. So, yeah.
So I think, but these children of not the yesteryears, but today years, they know their head right, they know their heart right, and they only pursue what they want to. Gone are the days when people were only looking at money. Now the children of this era is also looking at the deep satisfaction that they get from what they want to do. So I think this generation is really going to make sure that this creativity survives. Even though AI is there and they don't talk to each other, they'll just be on the phone. But apart from that, whosoever are in it are going to take it forward in a very ecstatic sense. And second, because the time is not so much that I can express it more, but as you rightly pointed out, and I'm also resonating, that commercialization is the only thing that's going to let it survive. When we say commercialization, it's not strapping the asset, that is art form. It's actually developing it and saying that let's grow hand in hand.
Thanks so much, and it's almost nearing 5 o'clock, and yeah.
Speaking just now, and after hearing everyone, I very strongly believe on the same lines that while culture and crafts, artisanal culture or the artisanal expressions of all kinds is the second most important occupation of our country, us being largely an agrarian country. And secondly, we are only 75 years old, so we are a young country when we have a lot of responsibilities. At one, on the flip side, when we say CSR, I very firmly believe that it's not about helping someone, but it's about empowering a whole community to become self-sustaining. filmmaking is also a creative sensibility, but they have grown and they've become self-sustaining now. So has architecture, that's creative. When we say art, we are really defining it and prototyping it. Art is a way of life. It's how you and me choose to dress, what we choose to eat, how we choose to express ourselves. We are a sustainable community. The kind of festivals like Durga Puja, what we have in Bengal, is a sustainable festival. We do it year after year. We come together as one large community and celebrate one big occasion. In my opinion, where I see is we have to understand that the whole art, when I say art, I am talking about art and artisanal practices as well, performing arts as well. It's a community that needs to be built up, and when we do an auction, we say, let the artist also donate our artwork. But that's his bread and butter. How can he donate? वो किसी और के पास जाएगा. It defeats the purpose of doing the exercise itself. So what I really wish to understand is how collectively we can empower a community to eventually become self-sustaining, because that is what is going to help us grow in the long run. Like the tram was a fantastic idea. All of us have heard about it. We've been sharing messages with people that you need to go and see. A lot of collective programming is happening in other parts of the country, like with what Start India is doing, and they've created a whole community. I want to understand how we can kind of build that energy around here, because everybody is doing a lot of work. But how to make it more effective is where I feel we all want to grow together. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Myself, Abhash. I am from CSR Manager, Vision Arts Lab. I have been from last 10 years in CSR, and I am doing the organizing ICAMs for the less privileged people of our society. I have done camps in hilly areas, as ma'am has mentioned, in the tea garden, which were already locked up. From those perspective, I would like to add few things about the art of giving in CSR. First, I think we should think about that art can be used as an awareness. Because as I am an optometrist by profession, but I organizes eye camps in our CSR. So we have seen that in that part, when we visit any village or slum, the people are very less aware about their eyes. Because if they have a headache or stomachache, they can't stay. But if their vision is deteriorating day by day, when they can't see, then only they feel about it. So the awareness is very important to play a role as an art in CSR, because if they are not aware why it is important, because as Rajan sir has said, that for them the earning bread or butter is very important. They are not thinking about their eyes, because they feel my single day wage will go to attend a eye camp or anything like that.
Yeah, so your point is noted,
yeah,
right?
That awareness, for awareness the art can be considered, and similarly, it should be there a sustainable way where the people can get some earnings from that. Then only they will think and it can be grown, because those people doesn't have their food for a single day, the art will not survive for long days.
Absolutely. Valid point. Valid point. Thank you so much for your inputs. Now I would like to, I was about to throw it open for the floor. Glad to say that we have representatives from various corporates here, because the topic is about the role of CSR in promotion of art and culture. Glad to say that we have representatives from Village Capital, ASA International, Merlin Projects, Shrachi, India Power, Titagar Vegan, Manaxia Limited, Tech Mahindra Foundation, GKB, TSDPL, Crystal Foundation. So I would like to invite anyone who can ask questions, because this is a topic which is pertinent and applicable to all of you. And of course, anyone from the audience, please introduce yourself very briefly, your name, your organization, and your question. We'll have your observation discussed during tea time, but your specific question to any of the panelists, I'd like to throw it open. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I'm Devjani. I'm representing VFS Capital today. So my question is not directly linked with art, but the overall funding that we all are using, be it a listed company or unlisted. Is there at all any linkage between the listed and unlisted companies? Because for the listed companies, it is, if you have bigger fund, it is easier to come up with bigger projects. But for the unlisted companies, say for example, there is a company which has been, who are now starting their CSR from this year. Because they are eligible now. They are starting their projects. They have some amount of fund with them, but they have no idea how to go about this. And as a result, what they are doing ad hoc work, like they are conducting some kind of camps, or maybe they are giving their money. And at times I have even heard, oh, you are a CSR leader. That means you are doing some kind of charity. So that is, I would say, a preconceived notion. So my question is, at all in the Eastern India, is there at all any linkage between these listed and unlisted companies to collab their funds so that we can do something which is actually beneficial for the society?
Okay, we both can just handle it. Very quickly, there's no such distinction between listed and unlisted, okay? Second, what you want to spend into is more of a heartthrob that comes from inside, okay? What is it that the promoter likes to do? What is his heart lying into? For example, some promoters love to go for animal welfare. Some would like to actually go for poverty alleviation. So there are certain things, you know, what the psychology or what the emphasis of the board is into. And apart from that, it is also seen where the economy is really wanting the funds into. Sometimes the focus is different and other times the focus is a little different. For example, you know, if there is a war-like situation or if there's a drought or if there's a flood, the CSR funds can flow into that. And in other times when we see some other things, the CSR funds can actually flow into that. For example, these days there's a lot of CSR funds flowing into architectural, saving the architectural work in temples. A lot of these funding, and it started with Jio. I mean, it started with Reliance. So when what we're trying to also tell as an emphasis is when a large corporate looks at it, then the world starts looking at it because the media starts talking about it, a narrative is built around it, and all of us start looking at it. Why cricket has become a god? I mean, it's why cricket has become so big. Because we saw sponsors, we saw growing it from strength to strength, people putting it so much of money, etc. Why are the other, say for example, Mridangam, that the dholak kind of thing that you play, that's not popular, but dholak otherwise is very popular. Why? Because that structure has still not got inbuilt into our psychology and nobody is so much promoting. So it so much depends on what you want to promote and what is going on into the economy at that point in time. Secondly, as per law, now it has been allowed to have collaborative efforts. So you can also tie up with other corporates with that sense of what you want to do. Okay? Third, you can also have your own trust where you can actually put in the fund, but you should always try and see if you have any permanent projects that you build up, because the sense of satisfaction in doing fragmented versus permanent project is huge. Permanent project will be there forever. Only one thing that stops you from permanent project is the admin stuff. Person do not want to get into it because they feel, घर तो बना लेंगे, लेकिन घर चलाना बहुत difficult है. Hotel तो बन जाएगा, लेकिन hotel को दौड़ाना बहुत मुश्किल है. So you just have to kind of weave around it.
Thank you. I would just add to what she has said. Like actually there's a lot of things to say on that. So and just to add to what she has said, first of all, like listed and unlisted, I mean, CSR has no link in that. The only linkage is your profit. So it doesn't mean that a listed company will have more profit than an unlisted company. Really, even a private limited company, which is far from being listed, you know, like can have more profit than a listed company. So it all depends on the profit. And what you were saying about the charity, you know, आज यहाँ पे कर दिया कल वहाँ पे, so that if when we are talking about compliance, that is totally not possible also today. It was being done maybe 2-3 years back when the comply or explain approach was there, but now it is, you know, we have comply or, you know, penalty is there. If you're not complying, then there's penalty. So we are talking about the compliance perspective of CSR today. So from the compliance perspective, one-off events, something like that, so, you know, like eye donation camp, you know, like blood donation camp, eye camp, and all these things, just in a 1 year is not even possible. It's not even allowed. And year on year, you can have long-term projects. If there is big one, as Mamtadi has mentioned, companies can pool their resources. That is actually what is being done by bigger companies when there is, you know, like just to add to what Mr. Singh had mentioned in the very beginning, 25,000 crores every year is what is expected. And this is the 10th year of implementation, so it should have been 2,50,000 crores till date, but only 1,25,000 crores have been spent on CSR so far. And the topping the list is education. The lowest in the list is, it is the surprise PM Relief Fund. That is the easiest way of, actually doing CSR. So if you are actually complying, not doing CSR, it is the easiest way of complying, because even on the 31st of March, if you really have not done, you can just, transfer the money to the PM Relief Fund. But people are not choosing that, because people from heart really want to do the philanthropy thing. And we all basically, we Indians, the point that I wanted to mention, I was just noticing here, like most of us are from corporates, but without any pre-consultation and pre-discussion, without any, dress code or something, all of us ladies in this circle seem to have worn something created by artisans. She's wearing a hand embroidery, bandhni. She's wearing a hand printed. Then, woven sari with a, kalamkari, and then ma'am was wearing a jamdani sari, which is block print, and this is, this Gujarati work. So we were not told that you have to, but we have a natural preference. We in India, we have this gene, in our genes we have philanthropy, and in our gene we also have passion for art and culture. So CSR in India is in safe hands, and also art and culture is in safe hand. But from the compliance perspective, this is really helping.
In fact, I'm taking a cue from you. I was about to say that it's very I'm delighted to see that now India is seeing a different movement, transformation from power loom to handloom, handcrafted things. So that's a wonderful movement that we are having. We are now paying, we are ready to pay to the artisans. We are, exactly. And even we are thinking of, when I'm buying sari, I'm asking for, is this a shivori or is this badhani? So we are now aware of the different art form, which are actually a very, very different art forms. So earlier people were not aware. So now we are aware. And as when Mr. Kapoor was talking about that women are we are one of the connoisseur of arts, so-called. So yes, we are. And we are the people who are actually promoting art in a different form. Yes, so that's a wonderful movement. And also from a corporate point of view, we are promoting a lot of ethical buying. Even for corporate gifting, for the sustainability part, now corporates are looking for, is it handcrafted? Is it made by any artisans that we know? Are we supporting any social cause by buying this art? So that's a wonderful movement.
So the trend is always good, and talking about art and talking about the beautiful ladies, we gents just have shirt, pant, coats. So there's no artistic, flavor in this. It's just the same old dress we wear all the time. Like to also invite some of the other members who are here from the corporates to ask questions. Introduce your name, which corporate you are representing, and a quick question. Yeah, please.
My name is Swati, and I am from ASA, India. First of all, sir, thank you very much for this enriching session, because I really loved it and I enjoyed the CSR part. I have a question with ma'am that, ma'am, you talked about the section 135 regarding the beneficiaries are not very vaguely described there, which communities, just would like to know that, as we are operating in different parts of the states in India, so is it necessary to operate, to do a CSR spending in particular state, or we can go to any other state and do our spending, CSR spending? This is
the CSR, in CSR, section 135 and the CSR rules, it talks about the local area preference. So if your company is operating, let's say, in West Bengal, so your local area preference will naturally be expected to be West Bengal. And if you have multi-state presence, then you can choose each of these. Many companies ideally put their area preference in their, they are required to, but many don't, because there is no stringent requirement with respect to CSR policy framing. So you have to frame that policy, but what has to be there is no standard format. So companies generally put what they want to in the place where they want to put the activities. They mention the ones from Schedule 7, but with respect to area, many companies take a safe path and say that local area is India. So, but that is, ideally, that is not the way to do it. It should be the local area, because the idea is that you have to do good to the stakeholders that you are actually affecting. So if you are a polluting industry, so you are having ill effect on their health. So you have to do good to them, to just to make for the loss that they are having for you. Also, you are using their land in the sense that the community, of course, not owned by them. They are also working. They may be working here. So whatever. So that is the idea. But what about conceptually? This is I have also written this in my book. This is okay for companies which are local polluters, who are using local resources. But what do you do about automobile company? Let's say produced in Calcutta and used in all of India. So can you not write, because you are polluting, automobile pollution is the highest level of pollution, right? So the automobile produced wherever it is produced, but it is polluting the entire country. So you can put your local area preference accordingly. So if your argument is correct, nobody is going to debate it, because it all depends. That again, I come to that what I mentioned earlier, a liberal view of it should be taken. So if you really have justification, like if you're an automobile company or let's say tobacco company, then you are actually your stakeholders are spread throughout the country. So you can actually say that yes, this is the reason. So that is how you choose it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So just, how this entire thing looks like to someone who's, from a non-profit sector or dependent on CSR incomes, is that you'll see that Maharashtra, Karnataka, some of these states have the highest amount of CSR spending. And then if you look at the east and the northeast, it has the least. So I think there are both sides to it, and it's very interesting to look at. Therefore, in our bid to reach out to the ones who are probably critically marginalized, what do we do? So no answers really, but then I just wanted to, it's a very interesting way of looking at both sides.
We have one more question. I think Mr. Ashok Purohit has been waving at me for a long time, so just got his attention.
Basically, I am from the fraternity of Mamta ma'am and Rupanjana. I am also a company secretary. So I thought that many corporate leaders are here, as you have announced. At the outset, I will thanks to KCC for changing my mindset about the art. Earlier, I was thinking art is only paise wale ka kaam. But I have been the part of last 2 or 3 art festivals of KCC, and I've seen many artists who are performing, who are coming from the remote part of the West Bengal or remote part of the country, and they are performing so well. And rightly, ma'am said, empowering them with dignity. KCC has converted their passion into the profession. Since Mamta ma'am is there and Rupanjana, they both are in many companies as a board member. I wish, what will be your message to all those corporates who are here present in this audience, how they can promote art as one of the activity of their CSR activities?
So I think the CSR policy actually, thank you for that question, Ashok. So of course, the first and foremost is the re-looking at the CSR policy. For the benefit of everybody, let me tell you that once you draw up the CSR policy, it's not etched on the stone. You can always revisit it, rechange it, and just re-nomenclate it by saying version 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So as your thought progresses, so I think now, by this session at least, this is invigorating. So after this, I think, I'll go back to my boards and ask them that we should at least start etching out something for the art and culture. If not a lot, but start humbly and then go on. So that is one benefit that we get out of such sessions. And it's very much possible, very much possible.
I would like answer that also, Purohitji. Like in all the boards that I am in the CSR committee. I'm heading the CSR committee in all the boards. So because I'm also interested into in art, so like most of the companies that I am in, they are already having art side. For example, in the Rupa Group, in Neometallics, they have entire section dedicated to art and culture. So they're taking a lot, not an art gallery of this kind, something different. They are like empowering students and young ladies into becoming self-dependent with respect to art and other vocational areas. So this is there. Companies are doing it, and gone are the days. I have seen what I've noticed in the recent years, like from the 1st April 2014 when CSR was implemented in India, till date is the 10th year, and I have seen there's a shift. There's a shift of thinking, because people earlier used to think that this is mandatory, this is a imposition on us. Now actually nobody is seeing this an imposition. They are seeing this as a kind of number one, branding for the company also, because you are automatically allowed to write your name if you are doing something. You see a good example is PC Chandra Gardens, like there you can do it, and garden maintained by and all that. So we see a lot of these things. This is number one. Number two, companies are also seeing this as a kind of empowerment, that now I have this, I have to do it, so why not do it, spend the money in something that we have always wanted to. So art is something which companies are taking up seriously. But of course, as has already been mentioned, the bottom line, like the livelihood and poverty, malnutrition, these get more importance from the point of view of companies. But most of the companies are spending at least some amount of money in art and culture.
And
I'll just add on to what you said. CSR in India is also graduating. When 2014, when this act came into being, there was a debate whether CSR would be another boredom in the boardroom. But the kind of discussions that is happening in the boardroom, it's really impeccable. Now board members are asking, what are my social returns on investment? What are the impact that we are creating? So last 10 years, you'll see that CSR has graduated, and it was unexpected. I mean, 10 years no earlier, if someone would have said that no, India would be at this stage in CSR, no, we would have happily bought into it. Now, adding on to it, what ma'am said, one important thing is that what sir said is 200 million artists in India, and multiply by 4 those many lives involved in artism. So if, as a CSR, if we see them not as artists, but as individuals. Now, there are families, there are human beings who are to be impacted. If we go to that level, then the passion would, we'll have that passion, we'll have that zeal to work towards the artisans.
Thank you. We have one last question, ma'am.
It's more of an observation, and thank you so much, everybody, from the bottom of our hearts at Emami Art and KCC here. I'm Ushmita Sahu, the director of Emami Art, and as Richa ji is not here, I just want to take the opportunity to say that this was an amazing discussion, and I hope that this continues. I have made notes. I have just jotted down what has been said, and from Medici to AI to corporate responsibility to social empowerment, this has been such a brilliant range of topics that has been touched. However, one thing continues to come up, and which is art, where I think a lot of, if I may be completely wrong, but what I felt was a lot of it meant artisanal crafts or the heritage kind of work. There is a gap where we are talking about contemporary artists as well, and we are talking about performing arts or theater who fall in a different sector, in a contemporary sector, and that is also an area that needs a lot of work. And I think at KCC we've been doing a lot of the work, to empower this area as well. And my question to all of you, and you're such brilliant people, brilliant minds here, that how can we from KCC collaborate with all of you to create some a self-sufficiency or a sustainable programming in the coming future for this sector, which is not artisanal, which is not crafts, which is not heritage, but which is more contemporary in nature. Thank you.
See, I'll just touch this by saying, let's go to a Western country and see how even a piece of stone, they'll decorate it, they'll put a light, they'll put a writing on it, and they'll monetize it, they'll have a ticket, they'll do everything. They'll have good food stalls, they'll have music, everything they'll do to make sure that footfall is there. I went to Sarnath very recently, and believe you me, those stones that I saw maybe 4,000, 5,000 years old. But एकदम जैसे कोई लावारिस जैसे होता है ना वैसे ही पड़ा था. That was exposed to sun, that was exposed to rain. There was no maintenance, it's fragmented. Even if you go to Indian Museum, it's not so well maintained as it should have been, because they are so precious pieces, but I don't think that's so well maintained. So I have to say that in India, we need to understand how to monetize it. Gone are the days when people were not able to afford it. These days, when youngsters like 22 years and 19 years, they can earn 1 lakh a month, जो कि हम लोग 40 साल में कमाने का सोचते थे कि आज 40 साल 42 साल के हो गए तो 1-2 लाख में पहुंच जाएंगे. आज तो 19-20 साल के बच्चे ही कमाने लगते हैं. तो आज के दिन अगर हम मॉल्स में जाते हैं, मूवीज में जाते हैं, तो वी नो दैट देयर इज पावर इन द पॉकेट. So we need to understand that we need to monetize it, we need to commercialize it, and now India has the power, becoming the 4th largest economy of the world, it has the power to actually give the ticket money. So governments, especially the state governments, have to come up with a kind of a project where you are going to monetize and commercialize वो जो धरोहर है उनके पास. टेम्पल्स में भी चले जाइए, कोई मेंटेनेंस नहीं है. आप विक्टोरिया वगैरह जाइए, सब खाने का प्लेट पड़ा रहता है, सब कुछ पड़ा रहता है. तो therefore we really have to understand how to maintain it well. Only then it's going to.
Just adding a small thing, I think if you go to the Western countries, they attach a huge importance to handmade things. So if you buy something, if you buy machine coffee, it'll, let's say, cost you $1. If somebody makes coffee for you, that might cost you $10. So this is there in every country of the West. There is huge importance attached to handmade things. So we are talking about art and craft and culture. These are, let's say, all handmade. These are being performed. People are doing it, not machines. So we have, I think we can work on the psyche of the people and say, okay, you are wearing handmade. Like, I take pride in doing it. I'm sure she also does. She also does. So if we start portraying this, that's, okay, this is handmade. So the pride in carrying something handmade, the pride in being the original, I think if that can be made a trending, so-called today's trending thing, then today's generation, the millennials, will definitely catch on.
Thank you. Two words from you.
Point. When we look at children, and definitely for CRY, children are the most critical stakeholder for us. What if this is a space, right? And I know, for instance, a lot of things kept there. My daughter would not know what they are, what they're used for, which part of the country uses it. There are children like her who are using it, right? And with being able to know that, she will probably have more respect for people who are like her, but in a different context altogether. And I think we're living in spaces where there's so much homogenization, right? My daughter is going to a school which has people with privilege, not the other section, right? Therefore, I think it's a great space which can really become that bond, that inclusive space.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of things to discuss. काफ़ी कुछ डिस्कस करने को है. हर किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता, किसी को ज़मीन, किसी को आसमान नहीं मिलता. इस नोट पे हम लोग इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को एंड करते हैं. Thank you so much everyone for your valued time. Before we end, like to felicitate our guests from the corporates who are here. Alinka, if you can just bring the small little gift packets. Like all of you to please Debjani Chatterjee, Village Capital, if you can please come. Swati Singh of ASA International, Sarbani Bhattacharya, Merlin Projects, Poonam Tharar from Shrachi, all of you can come one by one. Rashmi Chaudhary from Titagar Wagon, Varsha, I'm sure we can all applause for them, right? Shormi Roy Chaudhary from Tech Mahindra, Anna Biswas from GKB, Abbas J. Chakravarti from GKB, Arjun Saha from TS DPL, Debashish Panda from CRISIL Foundation, Saurav Naskar from CRISIL, and Bishwajit Das from CRISIL. So please come and collect, and of course Ajay Mittal, okay, please come and collect your gift. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We'll have a group photograph, okay, and thanks so much for everyone. Pramilaji, a vote of thanks. Can we have a big applause for all of us and, you know, the fraternity of art, and let's hope for a brighter future. And thanks to all the panelists, it's been great moderating this session. Not used to moderating an art session. I've got no idea about art, but I think I did a decent job. Thank you so much.
Thank you for investing your time with us today. Today, we stand before you as a bridge between creativity and corporate social responsibility. We extend a heartfelt invitation to the esteemed corporate community to unite with us in the extraordinary journey of cultural enrichment. Thank you so much for each and everyone who attended. Thank you.